Losses to Nagorno-Karabakh's economy in the first 100 days of Azerbaijan's blockade are estimated at $190 million, equal to a quarter of Nagorno-Karabakh's gross domestic product last year. That is one of several new findings from Nagorno-Karabakh's Human Rights Defender's Office. In a report this week, the Human Rights Defender's Office said that more than half of all privately employed people in Nagorno-Karabakh have lost their jobs due to the blockade, while nearly 1 in 4 businesses in Nagorno-Karabakh has either totally or partially suspended operations. That includes the Kashan copper molybdenum mine, Nagorno-Karabakh's single largest private employer and corporate taxpayer. 2 weeks after the blockade began last December, the company that operates the mine announced it was indefinitely suspending operations, putting more than 2,000 people out of work. In 2021, the last year for which numbers are currently available, the mine generated nearly $23 million in tax revenues for Nagorno-Karabakh's government. A senior official from Nagorno-Karabakh's State Revenue Committee said in an interview this week with the Armenian press news agency that the government lost out on more than $3 million in planned tax revenues in just the first 2 months of this year due to widespread business closures and mass layoffs. Armenia's trade with Turkey more than quadrupled last year to reach a record $320 million, according to Economy Minister Vahan Karobyan, who announced the figures last week. Karobyan said that imports from Turkey to Armenia made up the majority of the trade, noting that Turkish goods are brought in via Georgia because Ankara keeps the land border with Armenia closed. Data from Armenia's economy ministry obtained by the Russian news agency Sputnik shows that exports from Turkey to Armenia, mostly agricultural goods, textiles, and home appliances, accounted for more than 80% of the trade between the two countries. Armenia-Turkey trade soared last year after Yerevan lifted an embargo on Turkish goods that it had imposed in response to Ankara's support for Azerbaijan during the 2020 war in Nagorno-Karabakh. The ban was in effect from January to December 2021, the maximum time period allowed by the Eurasian Economic Union, a Russian-led trade bloc. Economy Ministry data suggests that Armenia-Turkey trade recovered last year to both pre-embargo and pre-COVID-19 levels. Studies suggest Turkey could become one of Armenia's leading trade partners if relations between the two countries are normalized. 3 decades ago, Turkey unilaterally closed its land border with Armenia, a move that has had disastrous consequences for Yerevan's economic position in the region. At a historic meeting in Ankara last month, the two countries' foreign ministers said they had reached an agreement to take steps to facilitate the opening of the long-closed border, but the timeline for that remains unclear. Karobyan, the economy minister, told the Armenian press news agency last month that, quote, opening the border with Turkey will lead to high economic growth in Armenia, while also conceding that, quote, there are risks for Armenian producers who may be forced out of the market by a flood of cheaper Turkish goods. Armenia's economy ministry is proposing to set up the country's first dry port in Gyumri, envisaging the creation of a large industrial park and special economic zone in the city. Project lead Charo Malas sat down with us this week to discuss the project and what it could contribute to Armenia's development.
The concept that I have proposed for Gyumri, it is effectively a dry port industrial park special economic zone, which means you have the dry port section, but also you've got directly connected to it within the same co-location an industrial park, whereby we would look at inviting diaspora businesses, successful diaspora businesses who are willing to do copy-paste of their factories, other international businesses who will also basically come in and put in their factories and start to produce goods from here. The uniqueness of this particular design is that it combines all 3 prime modes of transport within the same co-location, and that is the critical.
You can find our full conversation with Charo Malas up now on CivilNet.am. For the latest updates on all these topics and more, please follow CivilNet on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.